Right guys, today I wanted to make a video about who I think should be the young player of the tournament. Now the award was given to Enzo Fernandez and I think that's fair enough considering how well he played in the tournament and that he wasn't a starter for Argentina going into the tournament, and by the end of it he was one of the first names on the team sheet, so he definitely has a case for it. But alongside him, I've picked three other players who I think are worthy of winning the award, and I'll go through them one by one. So we'll start off with the player who I think is the best player out of these four players, not necessarily at the best tournament, but Jude Bellingham. He was brilliant for England this tournament, arguably their best player. Certainly in that game against Senegal in the round of 16, I felt he was superb. Just such a great box-to-box midfielder, lots of energy, and performed really well in this tournament. Scored his first international goal for England against Iran in the 6-2 win in the opening match. And yeah, he's just continued the form he has been in for Borussia Dortmund this season, both in the Bundesliga and in the Champions League, into this World Cup, and has played ridiculously well for England, and yeah, certainly one of England's best players. I'd put him in the top four this tournament in terms of the best England players. Definitely has a tournament to remember, especially as this is his first tournament where he has been a regular starter, because at the Euros last summer I mean, it was a bit of a surprise. It wasn't. He earned a place in the squad, I think that's fair to say, based on his performances in his first full season at Borussia Dortmund. But I think it still surprised everyone how he did get into the squad, and he was never going to be starting games at the age of just 17. But this tournament, he has been really good with 18 months more experience in his career. And then the second, we'll go with Enzo Fernandez next. Now, obviously, ridiculously good tournament given that he wasn't in the starting lineup. That first game against Saudi Arabia, Argentina, they didn't do too badly in the first half, but they just didn't take their chances, and they just like poor in terms of timing runs. But also the problem they had was the fact that their midfield wasn't of a high enough quality. They started, I believe, Paredes and Rodrigo de Paul in that first game, with Alejandro Gomez, Papu Gomez, sort of playing a midfield role, but that just really wasn't working at all. And since Fernandez, I think he didn't start. I'm not sure he started the second game either, but he scored in the second one, and I think he came off the bench. But from then on, he was a starter in this tournament and has been brilliant in every game he's played. So definitely has a huge case for winning this award. He's been brilliant alongside Rodrigo de Paul and Alexis Mac Allister in midfield for Argentina. Amazing tournament, and really put his name out there for people, because like literally everyone's been speaking about him over the past couple of weeks. So yeah, superb tournament. And then the third one I'll go with is Josko Gvardiol for Croatia. A lot of people already knew about him going into the tournament because he is one of the best young centre-backs in world football right now, probably alongside players like Ibrahima Konate and William Saliba. They're probably the three that stand out to me at this moment in time based on the performances since the start of the season. And yeah, Gvardiol had a really good tournament. The only game where he looked like making any mistakes, and he did make a couple, was that game against Argentina in the semi-final, which did cost Croatia in the end. But I think that to put that game down to him being the reason they went out would be ridiculously harsh. He made a couple of mistakes, sure. He sometimes stepped up from the defensive line that Croatia were holding, meaning that players like Julian Alvarez and Lionel Messi could run in behind. And also that there was that obvious clip that people have shared around where Lionel Messi does what Lionel Messi does to any player in world football over the past 15, 20 years, and just runs rings around him. And that was the only game where I think Gvardiol looked questionable. Against Brazil, he was absolutely superb in that quarter-final. Good game against Japan as well, and was consistently good in the group stages as well for Croatia. I think they only conceded 1 goal in the group stages, so he had a magnificent tournament. And yeah, again, another tournament to remember for a young player, and probably a good thing for Leipzig, because I don't think he's going to be at Leipzig for too long now, and this tournament has definitely shows that he is capable, if there was any doubt, of performing at the highest level, because obviously sometimes people question how good is the Bundesliga based compared to other leagues in Europe, and also the fact that Leipzig, since he's come into the team over the past couple of years, he hasn't had too many games in the Champions League knockout stages. I don't think Leipzig have got very far in the Champions League over the past couple of seasons. I know in 2020 they reached the semi-final, I think it was, until they lost to PSG, but they haven't done so in the past couple of years. But he still had a brilliant tournament, and definitely added a bit more on his price tag for clubs who are interested in him. Rumoured at the moment to be Chelsea, Man United and Real Madrid, who are after him. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But he had a superb tournament. And the final player I wanted to mention was another England player, and that is Bukayo Saka. Now obviously England weren't the best team at this tournament in the end. I think they had a really good tournament. And I think out of the teams that did go out in the quarter-final stage, I think you could make a case for England having the best tournament, because they didn't lose any games until they played France for a start. Who else went out in the quarters? Portugal didn't look that convincing in really any of their group stage games, I didn't think. They had a great game against Switzerland, but ultimately went out to Morocco and were quite poor in that. Netherlands, I thought they were all right in the group stage. I didn't think they looked amazing. They had a really good game against USA, but then played Argentina, and they were outclassed for the most of that game. It was only the final 10 minutes of normal time where they just chucked the big lads up front and got a couple of goals. So I think England were better than both of them. I think they're probably on a par with Brazil in terms of the best teams who got knocked out before the semi-final stage. And Bukayo Saka was a huge reason behind that. He scored 3 goals throughout the tournament, which for a winger is a very good return, also, especially given that he's not a winger who is renowned for scoring loads of goals. I think since he's been like a starter at Arsenal in a forward position, so probably over the past 2.5 years, he has really been a 10 goal a season player. He's not been like, we're not talking Mohamed Salah, Vinicius Junior, like numbers, like I'm struggling to think of another example there. We're not talking like in the 20s or 30s goals a season. That's what he does, but he's a lot more build-up based, and he was superb. And I think the only questionable decision I think you can, well, the only decision of Gareth Southgate's you can question this tournament, because Southgate I think did well this tournament. It was just unfortunate against France. On another day, England go through. There were a couple of decisions that went against England, I think. One of them involving Saka, actually, the Tchouaméni goal. Saka was clearly fouled, but it was too early on for VAR to overturn it, and the referee should have overturned it. I've been over this, I'm not going to go over it again. But Saka in that game was absolutely superb. He was causing France all sorts of problems down the right, and Southgate subbed him off after France scored, and I think that was a mistake. Because Saka had been so good this tournament, scoring, was it one against Iran, I think, one against oh no, he might have got 2 against Iran. Yeah, I think, yeah, he did. He got 2 against Iran and 1 against Senegal in that really dominant England performance in the round of 16. So for me, these are the 4 players who I would consider for Young Player of the Tournament. There were other players I shortlisted, but I had to check the rules for this award, and you have to be 21 and under. So players like Chouameni, who is 22, unfortunately miss out. But out of all 4 of them, I think they probably made the correct decision by giving it to Enzo Fernandez, just because of how much he helped change things around for Argentina this tournament, because nobody thought after that opening loss to Saudi Arabia that Argentina would go on to win the tournament, given how mediocre they were after going behind to Saudi Arabia. I know Saudi Arabia was strong defensively, but you'd think a team winning the World Cup would be able to break them down. But since he came into the team, they just performed a lot better. So I think it's a correct decision to give him the award. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.